Live from New York. It's First Things First, and this is our last show for the week, except for Broussard, who has already taken the week off.
Yeah.
So Greg is here. Welcome, Greg. Back-to-back shows. On today's show, we start with the Jets' expectations. Quinnen Williams agreed to a 4-year, $96 million extension yesterday, continuing an active offseason and exciting a fan base thirsty for success. Here are the Super Bowl odds. The Chiefs, number one, of course. And it's the Eagles, who they already beat. The Bills, 49ers, Bengals. Sneaky good Cowboys. And then the Jets. So, Greg, do the Jets deserve to be considered Super Bowl contenders?
So, here's the reality.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes because they have Aaron Rodgers. Okay. And every year that he was playing in Green Bay, what did we believe that they had an opportunity to do for the most part? Contend for a Super Bowl. However, the one caveat, they were in the NFC.
Yeah.
And when you look at the landscape of the NFC versus the AFC, the road to get to that mountaintop is a lot more challenging in the AFC. And so that's where I'm like, look, if you're just saying because you got Aaron Rodgers and he's going to give you 3-4 more wins and you're going to get in the playoffs, then you got a shot to win a couple playoff games and get there. However, the reality of it is you got two other teams in your division that you gotta be
Overtake.
better than.
Yep.
Like the Bills were number one, then you had the Dolphins. These teams aren't just automatically getting worse.
Yeah.
Like the reason why I'm not mentioning your
the
Patriots
is because they jumped past them.
Exactly, and they don't even know who their quarterback is.
Yeah.
At any rate, when you look at this team, are they exciting? Yes. Do they have a lot of potential? Of course. But if we're going based off potential, there's a lot of teams that feel like we got a shot. And so when you look at the Jets and the teams that are on this list, in the AFC in particular, the Bengals are definitely ahead of them. The teams in their division, in my opinion, right now as it stands, if you take away just what they are on paper, they're third in their division.
Yes.
They're above your team in New England.
According
That
to
is
Vegas.
it.
No, well, according to Vegas, they're second in the division, but Greg's saying he would have the Dolphins ahead of them as well.
Correct.
I understand the rationale for the Jets being, kind of tier 2 contenders, right beneath. There's the tier of the Chiefs. They should be by themselves, but put the Eagles right there with them, the Bengals, and those teams. The Jets right there in that next group is a very simple one. They were 7-10 with the worst quarterback crew in football. They had the 31st, the 32nd, and the 33rd ranked quarterbacks in the entire league last year, and now you have Aaron Rodgers. My reason for skepticism, though, is because why were they able to get those 7 wins? Top 4 scoring defense, top 4 yardage defense. I think the defense should be good again. But we see year after year in this league that defense fluctuates year to year far more than offense does, because so much of how great your defense is those splash plays, turnover luck, things that can change on a week-to-week basis. The best offenses year to year are pretty consistent because it's usually the best quarterbacks have the best offenses. Defense is not that. And I think the division got far tougher. I think Miami potentially takes a massive leap with the addition of Ramsey, the addition of Vic Fangio, and obviously they're contingent on Tua staying healthy. And then there is the Rodgers factor, which is how much of last year's struggles are we putting on the thumb injury? How much are we putting on the age? How much are we putting on it that he is a deteriorating player? I know he was hurt, but that did not seem to be a major affect for him late in the season until it was a win-and-you're-in game, and once again, he struggled. So I don't look at the Jets as true Super Bowl contenders. I look at them as playoff contenders, but I don't look at them as Super Bowl contenders at all.
So here's what I think about Aaron Rodgers, Greg, and you tell me if this is unfair or just the facts. I have an issue with Jared Goff, for example. Jared Goff played well, but people won't necessarily give him his flowers because he's struggled in the past. I think it's unfair. I also think it's unfair for Aaron Rodgers, who's had 2 great years but struggled last year, that we think all of a sudden we're going to snap our fingers, he's on the Jets, and he's going to be great again. So here are some numbers. He went from touchdowns-wise 48, 37 to 26 last year. He had 12 interceptions last year. In the previous 3 years combined, he had 13. His longest touchdown was 58 yards, which sounds good, but the rest of his career was in 70s, 80s. He had one 90. And you might think, well, his thumb was hurt. He wasn't throwing the ball far down the field until you see this tweet from Warren Sharp, which he was actually throwing it down the field more than anybody. Attempted 40 passes, 30 yards downfield. He completed just 6. 6 of 40, 4 interceptions, only 2 TDs. As a result, the Packers ranked 30th in EPA per attempt, 29 in success, yards per attempt on deeper passes. Zach Wilson also had 6, but only 16 attempts. So if the thumb was hurt, it wasn't necessarily affecting how far he could throw. He averaged 217 yards a game, 2 yards less than Carson Wentz, who lost his job. And just the circumstances of it, Aaron Rodgers lost his job. The organization looked around and said, you know what, we're ready to move on. If he was the MVP caliber guy, I would think they would try to keep him onto him. It reminds me a little bit of Russell Wilson, where we're kind of done with you. We've seen a lot more than the people on TV have seen. We're ready to move on. So I just feel like the Jets' hype is too much because we got a lot of reputation and not necessarily the results that we saw last year. Is that fair or unfair, even though it was just all factual?
I thought it was really good. But go ahead.
I think it's really good as well. However, what I would say to that is the reason, a lot of what I would deem to be the reason why the Packers struggled is because Aaron Rodgers wasn't completely invested in that team and that organization going into last year. And the reason because of relationship, because of how he felt they viewed him and how he wanted them to view him moving forward. Having said that, he made the decision not to participate in allowing those young guys who were going to play key roles into whether or not the Packers were successful. He didn't allow them an opportunity to truly develop. What you see now with the Jets is why I still give them a chance and know that he's going to be better than those numbers that you said, the touchdowns obviously taking a dip and all those things, because he's been all in since becoming a Jet. He's been at everything that they've asked him to be at, even more possibly. He's been with receivers. He's spending time with them on the field, off the field. It matters when you're trying to chase a Super Bowl ring, especially in this conference.
So I think that's all very legit. There's the other element of it, which is, let's just say the Jets shock everyone at this table and get off to a great start. Because I heard you this morning talking about how they could start potentially 2-4, 1-5. Their opening 6 games of their schedule are brutal. I know you think that they could start 0-4 and the sky's falling, all of that, right? Let's just say they go 13-4. They win the division. Everything goes as well as anyone could have expected it. There is still the but of how is Aaron going to look in the postseason, even if they get through all of this. And so Aaron has an 11-10 postseason record. That's well documented. What I don't think has been discussed enough is how many of those games has his team supposed to have had the massive edge at quarterback and lost anyways. So since they won the Super Bowl, okay? So that was a decade plus ago. Here is the full list of quarterbacks Aaron Rodgers has beaten in the playoffs. Joe Webb, Tony Romo, who's an underrated player, Kirk Cousins with Washington, Eli in his final run in 2016 season, rookie Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, probably future Hall of Famer, very good player, and Jared Goff with the Rams. Here are the quarterbacks he has lost to since winning that Super Bowl. Eli, capped twice. Russell Wilson in that famous NFC Championship game. Carson Palmer, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, and Jimmy Garoppolo twice. The point I'm making is this. Rodgers hasn't faced a quarterback of his close to his equal and beaten him in the postseason since the Super Bowl against Big Ben. And in the AFC playoffs, even if you're 13-4, you are playing Burrow, or you are playing Herbert, or you are playing the Prince, or you are playing Allen, just to get the opportunity to play Patrick. And so I think that for the Jets, there's a lot of ways this can go wrong, and it is very difficult for me to see the scenario of it going right the way they're selling it. And the way they're selling it is, would add another trophy to the trophy case.
Yeah, we're ready to rock.
Which it was
Double
I
the
think,
number.
Yeah, I think that set the expectations probably a touch too high.
Here are the odds in the AFC. Bills still number 1. Jets coming in at number 2. Then the Dolphins.
Yeah. And then
the disrespected dynasty, the New England Patriots, which I like to be at. You know what?
Yeah. Chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, like Mahomes.
Yeah, there you go, just like it.
Yeah, you didn't believe in us?
Exact same
Watch
thing.
this.
Yeah.
Nick, how do you expect this to actually play out?
Okay, so let's just go through each of the 4 teams, Greg, and I'll do a best case, worst case, and most likely case. We'll just start with the Patriots.
Okay.
The Patriots' best case, I think, is a winning season, 11-6, win a game in the playoffs. I think that is their best case scenario.
I'm okay with that.
That, you know what, Mac gets back to his rookie form, the defense is awesome, you win an ugly 17-14 playoff game. Worst case, disaster season. Matt gets benched halfway through, and after the year, Belichick gets fired. Most likely,
that would be bad.
I mean, well, but that's. I mean, again, I'm trying to do a realistic best case and a realistic worst case. Most likely, nah.
Disagree.
It's just like So before I get to the other teams, you guys can, I think, right now my pick obviously it would be the most likely outcome. I think they're around 500 all year and not good enough to make the playoffs. But I think their ceiling is a pretty good team, and their floor is, this went real south real quick.
So I can be quick because I know you got a lot to say.
No, I don't
For
have
me,
that.
it's the most likely. Like, this is a team that they're going to win games that they probably shouldn't win. They're going to lose games that they probably should win. Yeah. But they will be well coached. They just don't have the personnel.
Have enough juice on offense. Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay. Okay.
That's it.
Well, I just, I honestly, I know we make a lot of jokes about DeAndre Hopkins. Would this change if DeAndre Hopkins shows up?
No.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Here's why. If you're going to add a true number 1 receiver, you've got to think that everyone else gets a little bit better, and Mac Jones has an actual deep target.
Yep.
I would assume that would get us a few wins.
Well, listen,
maybe 2 wins off.
DeAndre Hopkins is not worth 2 wins. Like, I like DeAndre. He is. I mean, let me put it like this. You think I'm being dismissive. I promise you, if they sign DeAndre Hopkins, their Vegas win total doesn't move by a half win, much less 2.
That's why.
All right, so
some money on
that's fine. We can do the Jets now. The Jets, I think their best case is 12-5 and make the AFC Championship game. I don't think Rodgers is going to do the Brady Stafford thing, get to a team taking the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Their worst case is their same record as last year. Rodgers walks and they owe the Packers a first-round pick. I think most likely is they finish 10-7. They're 3 games better, which is about probably what Rodgers is worth over the worst quarterbacking, and they're a wild card team that has no real playoff juice. That's how I see the Jets falling. It sounds like I think we agree on that.
I'm very similar. Like, when you look at the start of their season, their first 6 games, that is their gauntlet. If they have a hard time, which I believe they're going to struggle, because it'll be their first test going out against the Buffalo Bills, who have played together. And so for me, I think they're around 10, 11 wins, which it may get you into postseason.
Yep.
It may not get you into the postseason. Most likely it will. And if anything can happen once you get in.
Just before we move on, if the Jets start really poorly, I don't know if we have their schedule back up. If they start really poorly, because last year the Packers started poorly, but it felt like there was a built-in institutional trust in Aaron Rodgers. So he could, again, say, hey, relax, be patient, it's all under control. I don't think there is that institutional trust with New York. Could you see this, let's call it a little bit of negativity and belief in Aaron Rodgers seeping in post-bye? Oh, man, we got to play the other New York team. We lost that. Could you see it kind of get spiraling out of control?
I don't see it spiraling out of control. Those first 6 weeks will really set the tone for the rest of their season. However, I believe they can go 1-5 in those first 6 weeks, beating your lonely
They're not beating.
New England
Greg,
Patriots.
they have not beaten us.
I understand. I understand all of that. But when you look at the rest of the teams on that list, the odds of them beating them are.
Well, you like the Broncos.
I like
more
the
than
Broncos.
I do, but the Broncos would be the next bet. But I do think if they start poor, I think there's going to be a decent honeymoon period, and I do think New York football fans are smart and will understand how soft the end of the season schedule is. But if it starts poorly, that game against the Giants off the bye becomes a critical moment of their season. where they can be like, all right, we start fresh, get a win there. You also have the Raiders a couple weeks later. All right, I am going to show you next the team with the second highest ceiling in the division, which I believe is the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills, their best case is another awesome regular season. They're 13-4. Josh Allen gets his third consecutive media MVP, but his first actual MVP, and they make the Super Bowl. Now, they're the Bills, so I don't think they're allowed to win it, but they make the Super Bowl. Their worst case is this thing goes sideways on them. They have too much talent to have a truly awful season, but 9-8, like you were saying with the Jets, you could miss the playoffs. The most likely is it's very similar to what they've been the last couple years. A good team that is not good enough come the second round of the postseason, and that's how I see it going. The worst case is, I'm not trying to be too negative, but it is the most interesting just in the regards of they have this offseason drama. Leslie Frazier has walked away. Sean McDermott's taken on more of responsibility, and because of how Allen finished the year, I think there is minor concerns of how is he going to look this season another year removed from Brian Daboll. What's that going to look like? If they struggle, I think there'll be concerns there. But I think the Bills will be a pretty good team, probably the division winner, but not one of the top teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I think we all would agree to that. Probably not you, Wildes, because you believe in your Patriots. But you got to believe that, again, Josh Allen, the best quarterback still in that division. I get it. Aaron Rodgers has done a whole lot. I believe in him. I know he can bring a lot to the table. But the drama that has been looming over the Bills, it is real. When your head coach talks about it and says, I'm concerned, it is something real. Losing Leslie Frazier, you hope that it doesn't hurt, but it changes the continuity. It changes the trust
factor. And it adds more to Sean McDermott's plate.
Exactly.
Because the head coach, now the defensive coordinator.
You can't delegate to somebody that you know is going to get it done.
That's exactly right. And now,
can I give you one real quick
please.
question? Because sometimes this comes up in the comments when we're bashing on the Bills. Aaron Rodgers had like a quiet injury that he kind of didn't talk about, and then it rose to the surface. Like, no, it was the thumb. That's why the number was so bad. Josh Allen was hurt too.
Yeah.
Didn't talk about it, but it feels like we don't talk about it enough and why his numbers dipped and just his overall success.
To me, there's two reasons for that. One is Josh Allen, a lot of the errors were mental mistakes. It was not, oh, my elbow's hurt, so I can't make the throw. It is, what are you doing? And so I should say one reason for that, another reason for my skepticism. They have been very public that they are now going to try to convince Josh finally to stop running so much and putting himself in jeopardy.
That's going to hurt the offense.
But that's I think that is smart. But there is a cost there. That is when the Bills are the most terrifying is when Josh Allen drops back to pass and then you're like, oh my God, it's 3rd and 8. He's just going to run for 25 yards. And he is their best part of their running game. So if they effectively remove that, yes, I think he'll be healthier, but I don't think he's as effective of a player.
And I will add quickly, not only were they mental mistakes, but those mistakes were happening prior to the injury.
Yes.
So it's like there was no way we could say, that was due to him getting injured.
Before he got hurt, I'm pretty sure they lost a game when he couldn't take a kneel down, and they ended up, fumbling.
Okay, go to the.
All right, now last, the Miami Dolphins. I think the best case for the Dolphins, they win the Super Bowl.
Yikes.
The Dolphins last year, man. Listen, I am not a full-fledged Tua believer the way a lot of people, some of our colleagues on the network are. But I have to be fair. When he was healthy, that offense was humming.
Yes, it was.
That Mike McDaniel, as a rookie head coach on the road in the playoffs with a 3rd-string quarterback, played the Bills to the final seconds of that game with Skylar Thompson. They bring in Jalen Ramsey. They bring in Vic Fangio, pardon me. There is a path for that team to be fantastic and terrifying. There just is. Their worst case is what we all know could happen, which is unfortunately Tua gets, suffers another injury or gets knocked around, and it falls apart on him the way it did after he got hurt. The most likely to me is that they have a better season than last year, even if the record looks similar. But I think the Dolphins are not really a dark horse because it's not like no one's talking about them, but the healthy Miami Dolphins should be a scary team.
They should be, and I think a lot of people have dismissed the Dolphins and what they did last season, even with Tua getting hurt.
Yep.
because of Aaron Rodgers' arrival in New York.
Yep.
And you can't just do that. This doesn't mean that this team is just going to take a step back. I like the Dolphins. I think they have an opportunity to win this division.
Yep.
They gave Buffalo a run for their money in last season's run for the division.
Yep.
So I like the Dolphins. Tua healthy, that's a
Tua
problem.
healthy, it's a scary team, man. And McDaniel's excellent, and Tyreek was phenomenal last year. That's a scary team.
So here's the problem as we've gone through this.
Yeah.
I'm very confident in the Patriots, but we can't beat the Bills. The Bills pushed us around for a while. Also can't beat the Dolphins.
No, the Jets are the only team you
4-0.
can beat. That's why you're so anti-Jets.
And once I do the math,
Once you do the math, you're in trouble. Has Belichick
Turns
ever
out.
beaten Tua?
No.
Never
He's
beaten
0-4, I
Tua.
think.
And Josh Allen keeps kicking your teeth in
Yeah.
except for games played in a
It'll be
windstorm.
so we need a windstorm, we need a blizzard. We got to beat the Jets. And even then,
Yeah, it's not great.
Tank and go
get
get
out of
Caleb.
town.
Caleb.
Go get Caleb.
You know, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Absolutely.
Is Kelsey already go?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.